All right, let me just make sure that I'm live on Instagram. I'm live on Instagram. So, greetings, good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you are joining me on the planet. My name is June Allen, and I'm the founder of The Art of Greatness at juneallen.net. So, thank you so much for joining me today. Happy holidays. I hope that you are all doing well. So, today I want to talk to you about some things for you to leave in this year. Okay, some things for you to leave in this year. I personally love this time of the year between the space between Christmas and New Year, because everything's quite still. Everything is quite it's less chaotic. The build up for Christmas and everything is kind of gone down a little bit. So it just feels like a really nice time for reflection. So what I wanted to do is hop on and just give you some things for you to think about, for you to really think about what's happened, you know, during this last 12 months. And what you can then do is use this information that I'm going to give you today to take forward into the new year. So hopefully you'll have a bigger, prosperous, abundant, restful new year. Okay. But before I get into that, I just wanted to share some housekeeping. So if you haven't done so already, I actually created a Sacred Sister wellness guide for Black women. Okay, so and in there you will find some journal prompts as well to help you review your year. There's also a really nice poster which is about the 12 spiritual laws of the universe, which is really great stuff for you to principles for you to live by. There's also a book list as well. There's loads of some of the favorite things that I've used throughout my healing journey that you can use as well for yours. So if you'd like a free copy of the Sacred Sister Wellness Guide for the holidays, then you can click the link in my bio, go to heal.juneallen.net. That's heal.juneallen.net. That's heal.juneallen.net. The other thing that I want to let you know is Thursdays also we are continuing our financial therapy sessions, which is really great to kind of explore the link between race, the patterns that you may have had that you have in your family around money, and how you also your own relationship with money as well. So we're using this book as a guide. Okay, The Black Woman Millionaire, and it's really good because we're digging deep in a lot of these things. So it's a very intense session. So, but I'm really enjoying it. But this week we're going to be looking at some vision work. What does vision work mean for you? Your relationship with looking forward to the future. I know that a lot of the women that I work with, and also part of my journey, was actually feeling quite stuck around the whole concept of visioning, around opening myself up to receiving abundance and all of that kind of stuff. So that was quite difficult. So this book really helps us to understand what's underneath a lot of the procrastination and a lot of the pain around visioning and all of that kind of stuff, and actually giving yourself permission to begin to open your heart up so you can begin to dream and vision and have some stuff to look forward to next year. So if you're interested in joining us for that as well, you can click the link in my bio and go to heal.juneallen.net, and all the information about joining the financial therapy session will be there. Okay, so now let's get into, sorry, my notes are there and I can't see them. So now let's get into the session. So for those of you that have just joined, my name is June Allen, and I'm the founder of The Art of Greatness at juneallen.net. I'm a therapist, I'm a coach, and yeah, I really focus on the wellness needs of Black women, the therapeutic needs of Black women. So I predominantly help a lot of Black women work through their confidence, their self-love, as it relates to healing the mother wound. All right. And again, if you want to find out more about working with me, you can do that. Click the link in my bio for all of that. Right. So let's get into the context. So today I'm going to be talking about 6 things for you to leave, or 5 things for you to leave behind in 2022. So the first one is healing by yourself. Okay. Healing by yourself. Now, this is a huge one. This is a huge one. I would say all of the women that I've worked with have spent a lot of time before they actually decided to work with me. They read a lot of self-help books. They tried to do a lot of stuff by themselves, which only works to a point. Okay, it only works to a point. We have to remember with this process is that there's only so much that you can do by yourself, and it comes to a certain time when you have to think about the stuff that you can do on your own, and the importance of actually working with the community. Okay, healing is an I and also a we process. Okay, it's a we process as well as an I process. There is stuff that you need to do on your own, but there's also stuff that you can learn when you're healing with other people that you can't learn when you're doing it by yourself. When you're reading, just using my own experience as an example, I would read books and I would get certain insights and stuff about that, but I wouldn't really understand how I was feeling. And also, there were times where I'd want to switch off from reading the book. There was no accountability. I could easily just start reading the book and then stop reading the book if it got too painful. But I didn't really understand why. I didn't really understand what was going on. But when I've worked in groups or worked with a therapist, worked with somebody else, I could talk about these things, and that person was able to reflect back to me what was going on for me, why things were difficult, why I felt like I wanted to shut down. And also, another powerful thing about working in groups is the identification. 9 times out of 10, I would say something that I think that I was the only person that was thinking or feeling that thing, and somebody else would say, "Oh my gosh, I feel like that. I thought I was the only one that felt like that." And there is something really quite beautiful about having somebody else understanding your pain, being able to empathize with your pain, and for somebody else to be able to go, "Do you know what? You're not the only one that feels like that, and you don't feel alone." When you're in pain about a lot of things, it can be a very isolating experience. It can be very, very isolating experience. And sometimes it can be difficult. Like now, is just using this time of year as an example. I know that there's going to be a lot of people out there that are going to be in a lot of pain around this time of year, after Christmas and between New Year, because they've been sitting with family members maybe they don't really want to sit with, or been sitting with friends they don't really want to sit with. And there's the realization like, oh my God, my family are so much more dysfunctional than I remember. You can no longer sit in the fantasy around what's going on with your family. And this time of year can be very, very isolating and can be really painful, because you're sitting there thinking, I don't know what's going on with these people. These people are just not, I just don't feel safe around these people. So it's at times like this where it's important for you to be able to have your own sacred space, somebody where you can be with somebody else or with a group who can hold the space for you without judgment, who's going to be able to let you know that actually it's okay for you to feel like that. It's okay for you to feel like that. You have a right to be angry. You have a right to be upset, and to help you unpack it. Okay. So all of these things are things that you can't do when you're doing this stuff by yourself. Okay. You need to be with other people. Yes, you're responsible for your own self-care, but you're also going to learn so much more when you're doing this work with somebody else. Okay. So number one thing to leave in 2022 is to stop trying to do the healing work by yourself. All right. Number two, the second one is you're trying to control what is outside of your control. Okay. You're trying to control what's outside of your control. Okay. This is a recipe for insanity. Okay, trying to control what is outside of your control is a recipe for insanity, and long term, it's going to cause you so much more suffering. And for those of you that were raised in a home that was abusive, that was neglectful, that really was difficult, where you struggled a lot. It comes from that. The root of trying to control what is outside of your control can come from that, because you have a pattern of not getting your needs met. Okay, you have a history in your family of origin of not getting your needs met. So as an adult, it makes sense that you try and control things that actually are out of your control. So you spend a lot of your time as an adult being miserable, because you're outside of what you're trying to control. You've got no control. You can't control other people. You can't control other people's behavior. You can only control your response to it. Okay, you can only control your response to it. But as a child, it makes sense that if you spend so much time not being able to control how your abusive parents behaved and all the rest of it, it makes absolute sense as an adult that you're going to try and control other people the same way that you try to control your parents. So what happens is when you start to do your own healing work, okay, you begin to learn, and this is the biggest thing that I learned, the biggest thing that I learned, the biggest set of wisdom that I learned in doing this, is that you give away your power when you're constantly focused on changing other people. Whether you're talking about family members or people that practice racism, you know, or maybe you're in a workplace that's dominated by a lot of white people that you just don't understand what's going on for you in terms of the system and all the rest of it, and you find yourself constantly trying to get them to change, you take back your power. When you're doing your healing process, okay, with others, you start to learn that you're giving away your power to other people, and you can reclaim your power back. You take it back, but instead of focusing on their behavior, you focus on your response. You let go of what they're doing and you focus on how you're responding. How are you going to set boundaries? How are you going to process how you feel? How are you going to let go of the anger? How are you going to let go of the resentment? How are you going to process even if you want to stay in that environment? How are you going to remove yourself from that environment and remove yourself from that toxicity? This is how you take your power back, because these are things that are in your control. Okay? These are things that are in your control. Okay? So it means that you can trust the process a lot more, because you're starting from, okay, well, what is my part in all of this? What can I do to change this situation? Okay, what can I do to change this situation? So then what you end up doing is, yes, you can have an outline, you have an idea of how you're going to change things, but you just you leave room for your higher power, your ancestors, God as you understand it. You leave some magic for that stuff to kind of take it. You leave space for the magic to kind of take its course. Okay, so whether you are talking about relationships or whether you're talking about a project that you're working on, whatever it is, you let go of what you can't control and you focus what is in your control, and leave a little bit of the magic for your higher power, your ancestors, whatever. Leave some magic for that space to just do its thing. Let the universe do its thing. You just do what you're supposed to do, what you can do, and leave the people, the project, whatever it, leave all of that stuff to your higher power. Okay, have some balance. You do some of the work, but you don't need to control all of it. Some of it you just have to let go of, because you can't control all of it. All right, so that's number 2, controlling what is outside of your control. Number 3, okay, is overworking. Okay, now this one, I know that so many of us can relate to this one. We've just, we've just come out of a pandemic. There's a lot of stuff going on in the world, and it creates a lot of fear. Okay, it creates a lot of fear and upset. And when we feel afraid and we feel upset, again, this is about trying to control things. And sometimes we do that through overworking, because we think that money alone is going to solve all our problems. And actually, money alone does not solve all your problems. We think that the only control that we have, if we get loads of money, then we think that everything's going to be okay just because we have loads of money. And it doesn't always work like that. Yes, money is important. Yes, money is a tool. Yes, money can give you more freedom, but it's not going to remove your pain. Not in of itself. It's what you actually do. Okay, it's what you actually do. And often, overworking is also a trauma response. It's a trauma response to so many other things. Again, it's linked to pain. It's linked to trying to have a sense of control, trying to have a sense of autonomy over your life. You're thinking that if I have just more money, that money in of itself is gonna protect me, and it's not going to protect you. Okay, it's not always going to protect you. So you have to really think about, okay, first of all, you have to be willing to define what overworking is for you, because overworking is going to be different for different people. Some people might be able to work a certain amount of hours, which might not work for some other people. Also, it depends on the season you are in your life. I know for me, now that I'm getting a bit older, I'm going through menopause, and also because, working as a therapist is also, it can take a lot out of you. So I have to be very, very intentional about my self-care so that I can remain present for my clients, so that I can show up really fully when my clients do spend time with me, so that I can show up fully when I'm doing these live streams. Okay. So really being clear about the awareness and what is happening to your body at any given time. It might be that the stuff that you used to be able to do 2-3 years ago, that you can't do it now because your body's changed. Things have changed. Okay. Your body has different needs. Maybe you need more sleep. Maybe you need less sleep. Maybe you need to spend less time doing stuff on social media because you're getting triggered more than you used to. So in order to protect your peace, you need to be doing less. So overworking, overstimulating yourself, all of these things, you need to be constantly checking in with yourself so that when it comes to next year, because of your awareness, you'll be able to set more boundaries. You'll be able to be clearer around, okay, I might have been able to do that 6 months ago or a year ago, but actually my body doesn't really like me doing this now. So I'm going to have to adjust how I feel about myself, how I talk to myself, how I treat myself, how I allow others to treat me so that I can remain in a sober, peaceful, serene place. Okay, you've got to keep checking in with yourself. Okay, checking in with yourself and being really mindful of how your body responds to certain things so that you can continue to maintain a sense of peace within yourself. Okay, so overworking definitely is something that you have to leave because it's not sustainable. It's not sustainable. Okay. In July this year, one of the things that I achieved this year was actually finishing my psychotherapy training. I finished that in July, and I 100% was overworking. I was overworking. It took a lot out of me to do the actual course itself. I was in placement. On top of that, I was also holding space for clients and all of that. And actually, it took its toll on me. And so, this year I've had to really, as soon as the course was finished and I passed everything, I've had to really be cautious and intentional about being mindful about what my body can hold and what my body can't hold and what I'm willing to do and what my body is not willing to do, and taking action on it and not just overriding the body all the time. You've got to remember that this is a pattern that's been passed down by our ancestors. On the plantation, we were not allowed to rest. On the plantation, we weren't allowed to say, "Oh, I'm feeling sick today." You had to get your ass up and go and do it. Otherwise, it could be life or death. Okay, and you can't tell me that some of that stuff, some of that overworking, that overriding the body, how the body feels, has not been passed down. It's not a badge of honor if you've never had if you've never had a sick day or anything like that, or you don't take your holidays or your team no sleep. That's not a badge of honor. Okay, because you're a human being and your body needs rest. Your body needs rest. As a black person, as a black woman living under the system of racism and patriarchy, that in of itself, it takes its toll on you emotionally. It takes its toll on you emotionally. So you need to have time where you're really taking care of yourself. On Friday this week, actually, I'm going to be doing another live stream with another therapist, where we're going to be talking about managing difficult feelings, with the suicide of DJ Switch. And there's been a whole load of things that's been going on as well in the UK, around race as well. The whole thing around Meghan getting attacked, all of that stuff. It's taxing. As a black person looking at the news and having to absorb all of this and then internalize all of this stuff that's going on, it is exhausting. It is exhausting. And then on top of that, we've got the cost of living crisis, and we've got the fact that it's Christmas time as well. There's going to be a lot of people that are going to be feeling not great. I've already seen a few things on social media from people, particularly on TikTok, where people are talking about loneliness and people are talking about, they're not okay and all of this kind of stuff. And I thought, oh, all right, this is an opportunity for me to share how you can take care of yourself and how you can understand what's going on for you and how to manage these feelings. So if you're around on Friday, I haven't confirmed the time yet, but just keep an eye out on Friday. I'll put something in my stories around the time that we're going to do it on Friday, so you can set your timer. If you've been feeling, if you've been feeling a certain type of way, if you've been feeling angry, if you're feeling upset, if you're feeling lonely, if you've been feeling suicidal, join me on Friday, okay, for this live stream that I'm going to be doing. It will give you an opportunity to really, really think about, how you can begin to really take care of yourself, what you can do, how therapy can help you with these things, and how you can really begin to deal with these difficult feelings at this time of year. If you've got difficult family members, dynamics that you're trying to deal with, all of that kind of stuff. If you've got any questions that you want me to answer on Friday with this other therapist, then by all means you can drop me a DM or you can send me an email, info@yardofgreatness.com, and I'll be happy to answer that question anonymously for you if you don't want to be identified. All right, so that's number 3. Okay, overworking. Number 4. Okay, the fourth thing for us to leave in 2022 is fantasy over reality. Okay, fantasy over reality. Now, Again, this time of year is going to be riddled with loads of people thinking about the fantasy of Christmas versus the actual reality. You know, the reality for a lot of people is that this time of year is painful for them. It's painful for them because they're having to deal with difficult family members. They're having to deal with grief. Maybe they've lost family members at this time of year. You know, having to deal with, if you're a single parent, you're having to deal with children, having to manage children on your own, having to cook, obviously they're on school holidays and having to manage all of that as well. Obviously we've got the cost of living crisis and all of that as well. So there's a lot of, there's a lot of reasons why people may want to escape their reality, because the reality of it for a lot of people is painful. It's heavy and it's painful for a lot of people. So a lot of people are gonna use fantasy to escape from the reality of what their daily lives are like. But what I wanted to say to you around all of this is that it's not sustainable. Having that fantasy that you've been holding on to keep you from the reality of what's going on is not sustainable. And at some point it will catch up with you, because it's not sustainable to hold on to that fantasy. Okay? So my suggestion to you is to really think about, what are the things that you're fantasizing about? What are those things that you really don't want to face? And think about how you can get support to face those things. How can you get support to face those things? Okay? You can, there are opportunities if you want to work with me one-on-one. As I said, I'm a therapist. So, you can find you don't have to work with me. Find a therapist. Anybody who's a therapist is going to be able to help you unpack what's going on for you. What is that fantasy that's keeping you? Okay, what is that fantasy that's keeping you small and keeping you from the reality that's keeping you in pain? The reality is keeping you in so much pain. And the truth is as well that if your reality is really, really painful and you're trying to cover it up with fantasy, the reality is going to leak out somewhere. So if you're in pain about stuff, specifically if it's stuff that's, whether it's historical or whether it's stuff that's happening in the current situation today, it's going to leak out. It will leak out in your relationships. It will leak out in your parenting. It will leak out in how you treat yourself, your relationship with yourself. So, give yourself permission. Okay. Give yourself permission to find a space, find someone. Maybe the first place that you start to tell yourself the truth is just by writing it in a journal. Find a journal, get yourself a journal and start to write out the things that you are fantasizing about. Maybe you start there, because when you have to first be willing to tell the truth to yourself about needing help before you can actually ask for help from somebody else. All right? Maybe you need to start first telling the truth to yourself. Excuse me. Before you actually have the courage to go, do you know what? I've just written all this out and I'm in a lot of pain about this, and maybe I really do need to start talking to somebody else. I really need to get help. Okay? There's no shame in asking for help. A lot of us are carrying a lot of shame around asking for help, especially as black women, because we tell ourselves, oh, we're supposed to be strong black women. Society wants us to be strong black women. So we end up internalizing all of that and we end up not asking for help. We think that we should do it all by ourselves. And I'm just letting you know, you are not on your own. Okay? We all know that the strong black woman stuff is bullshit. And we need to really start taking responsibility for ourselves and going, do you know what? I'm not owning that part. I need to be vulnerable, because I'm tired of holding all of this stuff. I'm tired of holding all of this stuff and not getting the support that I need. I'm tired of doing all this stuff for everybody else and not getting the nurturing that I need. I'm tired of listening to everybody else and not being heard myself. Okay? It's time for you to get yours. All right, it's time for you to be heard. It's time for you to get what you need and get the support that you need, so you can stop holding on to all of this stuff, stop holding on to all of this pain, stop holding on all of this stuff and put it down. Just find a space where somebody can just give you permission to just let yourself cry, let yourself grieve, let yourself be heard. Okay, the secrets that you've been keeping all of these years have just been causing you more pain. The person that's causing you the pain is is going about their business, doing whatever they're doing. Meanwhile, you're sitting here. Excuse me. You're sitting here carrying all of this stuff. It's nothing to do with you. It's not yours. It's not yours. All right. So if there's anything that you can really do for yourself, okay, going into the new year, is to give yourself permission to really start telling the truth about your reality and letting go of the fantasy. All right. Let go of the fantasy and start embracing the reality, because that's things are not going to change. Things are not going to change if you keep hanging on to the fantasy. Okay, so that's number 5, fantasy over reality. So the last one, the 5th one, okay, is to stop winging it. Okay, to stop winging it. Now this is a huge one, because really a lot of us are winging it, and I include myself in this one. I've spent years winging it because I was in survival mode. I was in so much pain. I was in so much survival mode that I didn't know any other way to be other than just getting through the day. Okay, this is something that came up in last week's financial therapy session. I did a masterclass on the 12 spiritual laws of abundance, and one of them we talked about the law of clarity. Okay, we talked about the law of clarity, and what was interesting about that is that, you know, when we're constantly winging it, when we're in survival mode, it can also be like a form of self-sabotage as well, because we're so used to being in survival mode that we don't know any other way to be. We don't know any other way to take care of ourselves. And like I was saying before about the fantasy over reality thing, the reality is just too painful. The reality is just too painful. So winging it becomes a way of life. Winging it becomes a way of life. But the difficulty with that is when you get stuck in the cycle of just winging it, okay, you're then setting yourself up for a life of victimhood. You're setting yourself up for always being in a position of victimhood, because you've got no power. You're winging it. You're in survival mode. Everything, you know, you feel that everything that's happening is really going on externally, and you don't feel like you have any power internally. So you're just getting through the day. There's so much emotion. There's so much anger. There's so much frustration. There's so much fear. There's so much of everything other than peace. And it's just been built up over time. You know, you've absorbing stuff from old relationships. There's stuff going on in the media. There's living under the system of racism. There's patriarchy. There's, you know, you're having to deal with stuff at work. Maybe you're a parent. There's so many things that you're trying to juggle. So many things that you're trying to juggle. So survival mode and winging it just becomes a way of life. And you're just getting through the day. And what I'm here to empower you with is that if you can give yourself permission just to pause and breathe, give yourself permission to pause and breathe, that you can then begin to start thinking about, okay, what is the first thing that I need to do? What is causing me the most pain? What is it that I really need in this moment? You know, again, if, like I was saying at the top of the session, if you haven't downloaded my free holiday wellness guide for Sacred Sisters for Black women, in there it will have how to review your year of wellness for the last 12 months. So you can use those journal prompts to help you work through the stuff that I've just been talking about in terms of winging it and clarity. Once you have clarity, then you've got something to work towards in terms of moving forward. Okay, but you need that clarity, and you need to stop winging it first. You've got to make the decision to stop winging it. Okay, you've got to make the decision to stop winging it, because winging it is just, you know, again, it's not sustainable. And how long have you been winging it already? It doesn't mean to say that you're going to have to get everything perfect and in place and organized overnight. No, it's not going to happen overnight. You know, I've been doing this stuff for years, and I'm still taking my time to work through stuff. There are still areas of my life that still feel vague. There are still areas of my life that sometimes I feel like I'm winging it. And 9 times out of 10 now, when I feel like I'm in that space of winging it, it's because I'm afraid. It's because I'm afraid of something. I'm afraid of what happens in the future. And what that also means is if I'm afraid, then I have to ask myself the question, what am I doing by myself? What am I trying to do by myself that I really need to be doing with somebody else? Okay, because the reason that I'm winging it, that I often wing it, is because I know that I'm doing stuff on my own, and that's my default. My default is to do stuff by myself, because that's my pattern that's my history. You know, going back to the first one that I shared about healing alone, my default is, you know, that was my childhood, the feeling that I have to do stuff on my own and that no one's going to support me and all the rest of it. So my default always goes back to that. The healing process for me over the years is having to remind that part of myself that's trying to do it by myself that actually, no, you have support network now. Okay, you have a support network now. You don't have to do it on your own. So you need to reach out. You need to call people. You need to go to recovery meeting. You need to talk to your therapist. You need to talk to my business coach. You know, I have different people. I need to talk to my supervisor. There are so many different people that I need, that I have in my circle now. I have a support network that can help me get out of that place where I feel like I have to wing it. And so I don't have to wing it because I've got people that can guide me through the fear. They can guide me through what my needs are if I'm feeling confused. They can help ground me. Okay, so that I can move forward. The other thing about winging it as well is that sometimes the winging it thing is really because your basics, your foundational self-care behavior is out of whack. So one of the first things, if you feel like you're winging it in your life, the first things to think about is go back to basics in terms of your sleep and your food and your exercise. What's happening in those three key areas? Are you getting enough sleep? Or are you staying up on social media too late? Or is the stuff that you're looking at on social media or on the TV, is it really nurturing you, or is it making you feel worse about yourself? Are you are you following too many people on social media that are bashing black people? Okay, are you following black people that just post black people fighting or just black trauma all day long, and so you're internalizing all of this and it's making you feel bad about yourself? Okay, think about these basic things. Nourishment is not just like what you put in your body to eat, it's also about what you feed in your mind. Okay, so go back to basics. Think about your sleep, thinking about your food, think about your exercise. Are you exercising? And I'm not talking about, you know, having to go to the gym 5 times a week. Or if you can't do all of that, just go for a walk around the block. Just start there. Go for a walk around the block. Maybe you do some light stretching, but start and do something, because if you're stressed and if you're worrying about a lot of things and you've got a lot of stuff on your mind and you're in this survival mode, which means you can't take care of you know, all of that is going to have an impact on how you take care of yourself. And it's impossible for you to be in that space of wanting to dream and vision and imagine a life for yourself beyond suffering if you're trapped in this constant state of, oh my God, I just need to get through the day. And you just can't get beyond that. You just can't get beyond that. So you need to go back to basics. Go back to basics and start there, so that you're winging it becomes okay. I'm feeling a lot more grounded now because, you know, I'm getting better sleep. You know, I'm starting to really think about what my needs are and all of that kind of stuff. I'm eating a little bit better. I'm doing a little bit of exercise, which is helping me kind of, you know, get rid of the stress and stuff like that. Remember that stress is all pent up energy. It's all different energy that's stuck. You know, so you really need to be taking care of yourself. Okay, so those are the 5 things. Those are the 5 things that you need to for you to think about leaving in 2022. Number 1 is healing by yourself. Number 2 is controlling what is outside of your control. Number 3, overworking. Number 4 is fantasy over reality. And number 5 is winging it. Okay, if there's anything that I've shared today that, you know, that you've got a question about something that I've shared that you're not sure about or whatever, please feel free to tell me a direct message, or you can email me info@yardofgreatness.com. If you know somebody that you think might benefit from this live stream, please forward it to them. Remember, if you've been having difficult feelings over the holidays about a relationship, maybe it's dysfunctional family members, maybe you've lost a loved one or whatever, and you're finding it difficult, maybe been having suicidal thoughts or whatever, you're struggling with all of that, please join me on Friday. Okay, I'm going to be I'm going to be doing a live stream with another therapist as well, and we're going to be talking about all of those things on Friday. So just keep an eye on my stories, actually, so that we can tell you the time. I haven't fixed up a time with her yet, so I need to do that. But yeah, so thank you so much for joining me today, and allowing me to share and serve the community today. I hope you found today useful. Thank you for the hearts as well. It's been good to see everyone that's been on this live stream today, and I will see you next time. All right, take care of yourself. Bye. Okay, so let me just end the live here and end the live here.